to the Gracious Woman podcast. Marriage is a lifetime commitment to God and not to the person. Here, we encourage each other to be married to the vision of the women that God wants us to be, and whatever He does is besides the point. I'm MinisterPatience, your host, and today we're going to be talking about navigating financial challenges and aligning financial values. So we've talked about finances before. It's a topic that's huge within marriage because two things can break a marriage. Either infidelity can break a marriage or money can break a marriage. So we're going to spend a considerable amount of time talking about finances. So the very first thing we're going to talk about is an unexpected job loss. So in marriage, we all kind of have a mental picture of how we want things to be. So it goes something like the husband works and he makes more money than me. I work, but my money might not necessarily be as much as him. Now, this is the traditional way that we're used to, but 2024, a lot of things have changed. A lot of things are different. Women are starting to make a lot more money nowadays than the men. What's your situation? What's your dynamic like? It's very important for you to mentally think about your own dynamic and what works for you. So that's the reason why I also said we're going to be talking about our values. What do we value? What's your own personal value system? What's your husband's personal value system? Ideally, we want these value systems to align and to be the same. But sometimes we might find ourselves in situations where we don't necessarily believe the same thing, probably because we've evolved, we've changed, or the culture, environment, family pressures, whatever the case is. So first one, job loss, right? So he's been working and he doesn't have a job, or you've been working now and you're out of a job. I think it's easier when the woman starts working. It's like, I think we're all like automatically going to say, well, he should take care of you, right? So that's usually okay. But what if it's, the other situation where he's the one that's lost the job? I think this is the one we don't talk about often because we always assume that the man's the provider and he's providing and he's gonna provide. But you might find yourself in a pickle, in a challenge, in a situation where he's not working. What do you do? I have to say that I recently, not too long ago, but recently, I had to really grapple with what that means because I'm more traditional. I believe that, the man's the, provider of the home. He should, bring in the money. He should take care of the majority of the bills at least. And then I take care of the house and these chores and stuff like that. But recently, I found myself in a situation where I'm having to look beyond that traditional model. So in my situation, it wasn't a job loss per se, but it was more of a situation where I make more money than my spouse. It was the same way in my previous relationship when I was married. At the time when I now decided to pursue the business, I made more money than my spouse. So first and foremost, there is a cliche that when women start making more money, their heads get bigger. So the question is, does your head get big, in your particular situation? I know there's what society generally thinks, but is it true for you? So what I faced is, I would not describe myself as having had a bigger head, but I think my feminine energy became less and my masculine energy became more. And that just means that I just became a little bit more dominating, commanding, maybe decisive. I'm the one taking control of things like that. And typically when you have a traditional kind of marriage that follows that hierarchy, that can be problematic, right? I was now focused on money, making money. That can disrupt that marriage and family unit. So what's the situation like for you? Are you making more money? Has that affected now the dynamic of your marriage? You want to put that in check. You want to make sure that as the woman, your masculine energy is not becoming more than your feminine energy, because if you are not in alignment with yourself and aware of yourself, you can now get in a position where you want to make more decisions and you feel like you're justified because you're bringing in more money. So that's huge. We want to navigate this area with absolute care, absolute concern, absolute caution, with wisdom and prayer, because this is a topic that can actually pull the marriage apart, right? Now, along with that part of, you're making more money now in this situation. The tables have kind of tipped, a little bit, and you're making more money. What's your internal environment like, right? Are you finding yourself battling with the fact that you're bringing in more income? Do you find yourself paying more attention at his flaws and, well, what's he doing? Should he start doing the dishes, for example? Should he start cooking? Should he start doing all these things? Because he's going to be home more than you. So are you really talking about this very huge shift in the marriage dynamic, right? Because not only are you going to work and, not only are you out there making business deals or whatever the case is, you're going to have to come home and you're still in charge of all of that. Now, this is where the value system, financial values, come into play, where you need to know your partner's value system. These are things you want to discuss with your spouse before the situation happens, before you find yourself in that situation. You want to know how he thinks, how he would behave in that environment, and you want to get into an agreement. You also want to know what you think about a situation like that and how you think you would want to behave in that environment. And this is where both of you are going to have to come in and discuss your value system in terms of money, income, bills. Because, family, like I said, it's one thing to intellectualize something and when it's theory, and it's a totally different thing when it's practical. I had to always remind myself that, hey, there are women out there that take care of all the bills, right? Because I was really struggling with, well, he's supposed to provide for me, right? I had like a little bit of an anger within me, actually, to say, well, he's supposed to provide. But you're in a situation, bills have to be paid, what needs to be done? So first and foremost, try and have this conversation now, before things get bad. It's part of, foolproofing your marriage. It's part of making an emergency fund and provision for when that marriage or relationship gets into a tough situation. There was a story, it was a movie actually, and this couple met, everything was nice and dandy. He had a job, and she also had a job, but when they met, she had gone to visit somewhere, and that's how she met her then future husband. So after they married, they now decided to move back to her city where she was living. And what ended up happening is he was out of a job, for a while. Now he was what I call a typical alpha male, where he wants to provide and he wants to be working and stuff like that. And so this absolutely beautiful marriage started to crack and crumble simply because now those financial tables had been turned. So the lady now, in this desperate need to help and assist her husband to get back on his feet fast, she now went out to help him to find a job. Now she went to her ex-husband to ask her ex-husband for a favor to give her new husband a job. Now, unfortunately, the ex-husband had ulterior motives. So even though he was quick to say, yes, I can do it for you, I'm gonna help you, to hook your husband up with a job, he actually, behind the scenes wanted her back. So while he was doing her a favor, eventually, of course, her husband found out that she had pulled some strings for him, and it did not go well in that relationship. Like, the relationship almost broke up. Like, some of you will probably know this movie. But the point I want to say is, this is a huge thing, because a marriage that is running absolutely perfectly smoothly, once you guys hit that snag, it can potentially just break the unit apart. So yeah, you want to be able to assist your husband. Actually, that's our role. We're helpers, right? We want to go out there, help him to get back on his feet, but we have to do so in caution, right? You don't go and create another door you're not supposed to open, all in the name of, I'm helping my husband out. And so we women, when we're go-getters and we are zealous in helping, sometimes we end up doing the wrong thing when we're trying to actually do good. So we have to navigate this area, family, and we have to talk about this while we're still getting along. So I'm hoping that you're not going through that situation. Maybe this would be a nice topic to talk about over dinner or on your next date, but you have to make sure you have this conversation when you're getting along, because it's quite, it can be touchy-feely, right? When we start getting into our value systems, it can differ from person to person. So the next thing I want to talk about is how we have to support each other in this situation when finances are not that great. You have to keep the communication open. Men usually shut down. When their money is not good, this is when they shut down. They want to get into the man cave. They're going to be irritable, right? They might not want to talk because they're internalizing things. Men are not used to being taken care of. Yes, we're kind of also living in a generation now where the men are not working, the women are working. But if you're in a situation where your husband is starting to shut down, you want to really do your best to keep this communication open. You always want to be loving. You want to be supportive as much as you can. You want to find ways and suggest ways that minimize the stress, right? Adjust the budget. If he used to buy you expensive wigs and luxury bags and go on expensive trips, maybe this is the time where you, the woman, have to change your taste. He might not want to say to you, hey babe, I can't afford that. He's gonna feel like he's failed. So you could help him out by being proactive about it and telling him, hey, this month I don't need a wig, or whatever the case is, I'm gonna handle what I have, right? We want to be at least helpful in mitigating this challenge that we're all passing through. Now, if your situation is super severe and things have just blown up, this might be a good time to get help, outside help, but let it be professional help at least, because sometimes when we go to our friends and family, we make the situation worse, right? Because too many opinions, they say too many cooks spoils, the meal. So professional help is good, but we want to use wisdom in where we're getting this professional help from. Now, then the next thing is, along with what I said earlier about understanding your partner's financial values, you might find yourself in a situation where you realize that you now totally believe in completely different things, right? Now, hopefully you try to have this conversation while you're still getting along. This is where you're going to have to look for the middle ground, right? Look for the middle ground so that you can both be amicable, right? You don't want to be going that way while he's going that way, because then now we're not in this unit, right? At the end of the day, marriage is about unity. It's about moving in the same direction. It's about supporting each other emotionally, financially, physically. The whole 9 yards, right? So we always want to put this particular area in check and make sure that we're all on the same page. You don't want your partner to be battling some private financial challenges and you know nothing about it. I remember when I was growing up, there was a family that, they were very wealthy. That's how I knew of them. And unfortunately, the husband passed in a car accident and everything was left to the wife. Now, unfortunately, she knew absolutely nothing about their finances. She knew nothing about the business. She just didn't know. And so now something that was going on perfectly well was just collapsing right in front of her. So don't be that woman that just says, hey, as long as I'm taken care of, I don't know anything. It's okay once in a while to just have this conversation with your husband. How's the business going? Know the key things in your man's business, so that if, God forbid, he's not feeling fine, or he needs to step aside, or he's not there anymore, you can take over and run these things, because I'm assuming you're going to have kids, right? At this point, you're going to have kids, you're going to have a lifestyle that you need to maintain. So being virtuous, being gracious is, hey, we're going to make it our business to know everything that's going on. And even if it's not his business, maybe he just has a job, and it pays to know some key things around his job, because you never know, you might give him advice, right, on one or two things that he might not see. And again, if you see, these are things, money is something that we get up every day to busy ourselves with. You want to be part of your partner's busy financial life, because this is going to bring you together in the marriage. It's going to make you closer. It's going to make you friends. It's going to make you confidants, right? It's not just about that superficial home stuff. It's really about supporting each other, right? So I'm saying this to you because we're encouraging each other to be the best women that we can be, and to have these fabulous relationships around this very sensitive and complicated thing called finances, right? So then once you understand your partner's financial values and goals, both of you are going to build a philosophy. You're going to find that all your values are going to permeate into all areas and aspects of your marriage. So a simple thing like dinner, right, can be impacted. Are we going out? Are we staying in? What kind of ingredients are we buying? What kind of food are we buying? All of these things play a role, because everything involves money, right? Once you also know his philosophy, the way you dress, down to those simple things. Is there a budget, for that? And also the home keep, furniture, right? The kitchen. Is there money to splurge in these areas? I went to someone's house before, and I was absolutely shocked when I got there, because the house was a dungeon. It was dirty, it was dingy, everything in there was old, but guess what? They wore the absolute latest clothes. So out there, they look fabulous, but then when you get into their home, it was like, where am I? So we need balance, and I feel like us women, we have more say kind of in this department. Let's not, put all the money and all the focus into our outward appearance and not in the home department, right? Super, super important. Once you develop a philosophy around the finances, it really dictates everything else. I love a beautiful home. I love a clean home, but I'm not necessarily the girl that's gonna go and get that leather couch and all of that. I'm more of a thrift person here. So you're gonna find me in the thrift. You're gonna find me in a yard sale and stuff like that. But when you see my home, you're not really gonna think that, right? So this is part of being virtuous. This is part of being gracious. We can splurge, in a thing or two. Like, obviously, I can't buy secondhand electronics, right? So I like to have a big TV as though I'm in the theater. So I'll splurge a little bit more on that. But then I'll kind of draw back on other things. However, now if you get into my kitchen, you're gonna find everything in there, right? Ground beef is gonna be there, chicken. Like, I love to cook, I love to entertain, so I spend more money in the food department. So again, back to you. What's your money philosophy like? As a woman, right? You want to make sure this area is balanced out. You really, really want to make sure. Maybe you're the kind of woman that waits on what your husband's giving you at the end of the month. You want to make sure you budget it well and you allocate the money well across all the board. And let's not forget the children, family. So if you have children, the children are also a huge part of the budget. They need clothes, you're saving for their school, they need extra activities to do, basketball, maybe piano lessons, all these things. You have to cater for them, and they're all gonna go based on your philosophy with your husband about money and how money is being managed and how crisis is being handled. So that's about it. That's all I have for you, family. finances are a huge thing. Two things can break a marriage: cheating or money issues. So let's not let this money department slide through the cracks. I will see you next week.